Welcome to the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, where we dive into the captivating world of books. Here at the Book Buzz Show, we encourage you to make your pages turn with joy and immerse yourself in a magical literary experience. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, where we dive into the captivating world of books. Here at the Book Buzz Show, we encourage you to make your pages turn with joy and immerse yourself in a magical literary experience. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Book Buzz Show. I'm your host, Cheryl Brooks. And if you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. And if you enjoy the upcoming show, please like, follow, subscribe, and share the broadcast. For those of you who are new here at the Book Buzz Show, we do discuss the book with some minor spoilers, but nothing major that would ruin your reading enjoyment. Just enough to hopefully whet your appetite a little bit to make you want to get the book. In addition to being a live stream, we are also a podcast, so you can check us out when you're on the go at the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, wherever you get your podcasts. So feel free to do that and follow us there as well. All right, we have a great show in store for you this evening. I have really enjoyed this book and I'm looking forward to talking about it. And for those who are watching, here is the cover, the beautiful cover on the screen. The name of the book is The Unexpected Diva by Tiffany L. Warren. For those listening later, again, that's The Unexpected Diva by Tiffany L. Warren. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on tonight's guest, along with my co-host this evening, Mama Tony Benita. All right. Welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Good evening. And looks like, let me see. We have a few people in the audience. Hello, Myra. Thank you for joining us. This is another good one for you, Myra, to check out. Hi, Velva. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Islin. Thank you for joining us. We also have Instagram up. Their comments don't show in the main feed, so I'll keep an eye on that as well. Just in case anybody has a comment for you. All right, so we're going to get right into it. Tiffany, can you give us some background on yourself and how you got started on your professional writing journey for those who are new to you?
Yes. So I have been writing for about 20 years. This is actually
Wow.
the 20th anniversary of my first book release. My first book, What a Sister Should Do, came out in March of 2005. So I've
Okay,
been
congratulations.
you. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I started out writing inspirational fiction. So I got my very first book deal with Walkworthy Press. I don't know if you guys remember Walk. I know Mama Tony
Mm-mm.
remembers Walkworthy.
Yes.
I don't remember it.
She is a day one. Um, so I started out writing Christian fiction, and it's just kind of progressed from there. I've gone from Christian fiction to young adult to women's fiction,
Okay.
and this is my very first historical fiction, and I think I found my new love. I really am enjoying discovering these hidden figures,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just been a joy to do this. But I just my writing career has just been something that is just innate to me. Like, I cannot imagine not writing. People ask me all the time, when did I start writing? Professionally, I know when I started, but when I picked up a pen, I have no idea. I just know that I've always had a notebook and a pen in my hand ever since.
Okay.
I started reading very early. I was reading chapter books when I went to kindergarten. I was at
Mhm.
a third grade reading level at the age of 5. And that love of reading kind of translated into a love of storytelling very early on. I do
Mhm.
remember the first time I got paid to write. That was in the 10th grade.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
Yes, I won an essay contest and from the Plain Dealer. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. So we had an essay contest. It was 90 words for the 90s. It was 1989 going into 1990. I'm telling my age, but um, we had an essay contest and I won first place with a little funny essay about Bernie Kosar winning a Super Bowl for us. That never happened. And the pigeons in Terminal Tower. And I won first place, 500.
Okay.
Um,
Love it. Love it.
and I also learned about taxes because my mother took half of my money. So that was the first time I got paid to write. So
I
that's
love that. So that put the bug right
mhm,
there
yep,
to
that
make
put
it
a
a
bug in my
career.
ear.
Okay, so I have to get back to this beautiful cover. I'm gonna bring it back on the screen for a moment. Okay, this is beautiful. Did you have any input as far as the cover?
I actually did have a little bit of input. So uh, the cover, the colors, the feel, the look and feel of it. I did have some input in that, but it's funny. The first cover that they gave me, the model on it, she was a little bit thin, and if you read the book, you know that Eliza was a plus sized woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, well, why is she so thin? And my editor said, you know, she is a little bit waifish.
Oh, that
Let's
definitely would not have matched. Yeah.
right. And so they came back and they made Eliza a little bit thick, which I appreciated
Mm-hmm.
because that was true to what she looked like. And so I love that. And uh, I just really love this cover because I feel like with her standing there on the stage and looking
Mm-hmm.
out at the empty seats, it reminded me of the scene. There's a scene in the book where she's practicing before her first concert, and
Right.
she's kind of thinking about what it's going to look like, what her dream is going to look like with her actually performing on stage in front of all these people. And so I felt like this kind of embodied her that
Mm-hmm.
excitement that she had before that very first professional concert. In Buffalo. So I really enjoyed seeing that rendered by an artist for the first time. So I really love this cover.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then just because I read the book too, it it encompasses so much of the story, and you can just tell a lot about it just from looking at the cover. I love covers like that.
Mhm.
To me, when she's looking off, she's looking slightly to the right. It's like she's giving the pianist the clue. I'm ready now.
I'm ready.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
you're
let's
right.
go.
You're right.
I'm ready.
Mhm.
No, she's looked out at the audience, and then she's turned, and just that slight nod, and that whatever eye contact that they have with each other, she doesn't have to let her know. Okay, I'm ready. So
Mhm.
Right.
that means that pianist is ready to start playing, and she's ready to start delivering to the audience.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And she did that a lot. Looked over to the
Mm-hmm.
accompanist. You're
To
right.
Charles.
To Charles. I
Charles.
love that tape. Okay, now for those who haven't read the book yet, can you give us a brief overview of who Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield is or
Mhm.
was?
So Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield was the first Black prima donna, the first Black opera singer, and she was born on a plantation in Mississippi. But she was freed at a very young age, and she was raised by her former mistress in a free community in Philadelphia. It was a Quaker community, but there was also free Black folks, so there were abolitionists there, and she was given an education and was able to take that 3 octave voice that she had, her gift, and it was honed and she was skilled. And when her former mistress who raised her died, she was left this inheritance.
Right.
That inheritance was contested. And so she was left with a choice. What do I do? Am I going to pursue this gift that I have, or am I going to do what any other woman of the day would have done? Maybe teach or become
Hmm.
someone's wife, or someone's nanny. And we know that Eliza pursued that gift, and she chased her dream of the stage. And the book is about her first couple of tours of North America. And she toured the country during a time where it wasn't safe for Black
Right.
people to travel. It was during the 1850s. This was pre-Civil War, which is why I call Eliza the Beyonce of the antebellum, because she was touring when it was during the time where the Fugitive Slave Act allowed plantation owners to come and kidnap Black people and put them on plantations, whether they were fugitives or not.
Right.
They could be free, and they were could be forced onto plantations. So she did this, and it took a lot of courage for her to do that. And I love her tenacity and her boldness in that pursuit of her gift. And I love that this story is so triumphant and so joyful, even with all the peril and obstacles that she faced.
Right. And that came through when I as I was reading as well. Because I had, and like I was telling you off camera, I had never heard of Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield before until I picked up your book. And um like I was telling you too, I spoke to Victoria Christopher Murray recently, and she brought um now I can't Jesse.
Jesse Redmond.
Yes. And I was saying that I appreciate you both bringing these lost figures to the forefront because we never would know about them. But as far as Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield, how did you discover her, and what was it about her story that made you want to tell it?
So I actually discovered Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield when I was researching my next historical fiction about Yolande Du Bois, W.E.B. Du
Mm,
Bois's daughter. Um, he had a record company called Black Swan Records, which was named in favor of Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. Her stage name was the Black Swan.
right.
And I was like, well, who is the Black Swan? And that day I fell down a rabbit hole of research, which is something that you do when you are writing historical fiction. And I have a love of opera. I had written another novel called A Multitude of Sins about an opera singer in New Orleans who was passing as white. And I had told my agent, we were actually about to start shopping that book. She had it in her newsletter that she was about to start sending out to editors. And I said, wait a minute, let's not shop that, because I found this real Black opera singer, and I want to use all that research that I did about opera and apply it to a real opera singer that I just discovered her. And so we pulled that submission back, and instead of writing about just a fictional character,
Right.
I wanted to use that research that I had done because I love opera. And so we used that for Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. So I just happened upon her. I had never heard of her. Um,
Hmm.
and it just so happened that I had this mountain of research about Yolande Du Bois, and it was going to take me a while to sift through that and write that book. It was easier for me to write the book about Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield because there was not as much research about her.
Okay.
The time period that she lived in, there were not as many records. The
Right.
amount of information on her, it was just less, because most of what I found on her was about her concerts. I found a lot of reviews of her shows that allowed me to piece together a timeline of her tours. There was a lot in the media, the British media, when she did her concert tour in the UK. I found a lot of clippings of where she went, where she visited. But her life, what I wrote about her was mostly fiction, like her
Okay.
Lucian, Charles, all of the people in the book that are a part of her life, outside of like Colonel Wood. He was a real person. Her managers, most of interestingly enough, most of the white people in the Unexpected Diva are real.
Okay.
Her Black community were created. Now the people in the Philadelphia female anti-slavery society, like Hattie Fortin. She was a real person. I have no idea if she was a friend of Eliza, but she had to be in the book because I discovered her, and she. Um, but I don't know if she knew Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. I just wanted her in the book.
Okay,
She
okay.
really now Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield was friends with Harriet Beecher Stowe. So
Okay,
she
that was going to my
yeah,
questions.
she
Okay.
absolutely was an ally for Eliza, and she did help her when she found herself in hot water in Europe. So a lot of the things, and if you read my author's note in the back of the book, I kind of I want the reader to know what things are fact and what things
Right.
are fiction.
Good. And so was that your main resource as far as getting information about Eliza? And was that her name, Eliza? Did they call her that, or was that made up fiction?
No, she was her nickname was Eliza.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, was that mostly where you got your information from newspaper clippings, or did you have other?
There were other sources. So one primary source was a concert program book that was written. It was like a biography of her, but it was written for concert audiences. So of course,
Okay.
there was embellishments in there. So I used that, but then I also had to compare that to what I found in the newspaper. There was where Mrs. Elizabeth H. Greenfield, who was her benefactor and the one
Right.
who raised her, when her will was contested, there was actually a court case about that. So it
Okay.
wasn't
Okay.
yeah, it wasn't just Eliza's inheritance that was contested. Her entire will was contested. So I read the entire court case to find out what how that progressed. So there was a lot of just small pieces that I was able to put together to put this story about Eliza's life together.
I loved it. And now, was there anything that stood out or surprised you when you were doing your research as far as Eliza's life?
Yes. So one thing that surprised me greatly was the amount of criticism that Eliza got from the Black community. She had a lot of criticism in the Frederick Douglass newspapers, which before the North Star, which was the newspaper that we most know Frederick Douglass for, there was an editorial paper called the Frederick Douglass newspapers, where a lot of it was letters written in from people, and they were published. And
Okay.
um, there was a lot of criticism because Eliza's shows were mostly all white. People were not integrated, and you know, folks wanted to see her. We wanted to see the Black Swan.
Right. Right.
Um, and we were not allowed at many of her concerts. And if we were allowed, we had to sit up in the gallery. We couldn't
Hmm.
get the best seats in the house.
Right.
And we wanted Eliza, Black folks wanted Eliza to fight more for our rights to see her in concert.
Hmm.
And in
Hmm.
the very beginning of her career, she was not as vocal about fighting for Black folks' rights. And
Right.
you have to understand, she was a very young woman. She was in her early 20s. And she was getting this opportunity when we didn't have many rights. And so as
Right.
her career progressed, she started to use her voice more. And I showed that character arc and that growth in the book. Um, Toward the middle and end of her career, she starts to become more vocal, and I show her
Hmm.
becoming more vocal in the story. And so but I was surprised at that. She did have supporters, of course, but she also had a lot of criticism.
And when I was reading it, and jump in anytime, Mama Tony. When as I was reading it, it reminded me a lot of Hattie McDaniel because
Oh, for
she got
sure.
a lot of criticism from our community as well for taking the roles that she took.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, and it reminded me of that, of what she was dealing with, especially though. It's incredible to me that she even had the opportunities that she did have when you're thinking about people who's still during slavery
Yes.
and before the Civil War. It's just
Yeah.
amazing to me that she was able to even accomplish what she did accomplish.
Well, you
Yes.
have to think back in that time, peace awarded any Black woman who then was going to get pushed back. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the pushback from us was more so jealousy than anything else, because you were out there and I can't. You know
True,
what?
especially back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and how dare her go and sing for them? I can just imagine somebody saying, "How dare her go and sing for them white folks, but she won't sing for us?"
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
how dare her put on a concert for them and put on her best dress, and
Mm-hmm.
then she won't even come down on our street.
Right.
You know, but she had to do what she had to do to survive, to make a living
Mm-hmm.
for herself, and she knew what her purpose was. She
Yes.
knew what her passion was,
Right.
and she knew the gift she had, so she had to use it to the best of her ability, even if it meant getting the pushback from the people that should have been supporting her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then what I like too that you pointed out in the story is in the beginning she didn't have a platform. She was trying to get to that point
Yeah.
Yes.
where she did have more of a voice. But if she had tried that in the beginning, it wouldn't have worked because she didn't really have the clout to do it.
Yes. It would have been a grand opening, grand closing.
Right, right, right. Yes. Because even with Charles, and I know you say he's a fictional
Yeah.
character, but even him, I understood where he was coming from, but he was making these grand decisions and grand declarations about something that was affecting her and her career. It was easy
Mhm.
for him to say that she should be doing all of this when it was her name and her, everything on the line.
That's why he had to go on timeout
Now,
for a little
yeah,
minute.
yeah, that's why he was absent for about 3 chapters.
Right, right, right.
He was missing in action.
Oh man. Oh, but you did a great job, I think, of showcasing too just how precarious it was, her life was, because she was raised in, like, she was sheltered and in a little
Yes,
bubble in the
absolutely.
Quaker community. And then because of who her guardian, her mistress was, she was wealthy, and she was white, so she had
Yeah.
a lot of privilege. So she kept Eliza, in this bubble. So
Yes.
when she didn't have that protection anymore, I felt it, and I felt so bad for her. We always give like our heartfelt moments. That was one of my heartfelt moments when she was sitting in the lawyer's office and
Hmm.
being told that the inheritance was being contested
Yeah.
and that she had a week to move out of her home.
That house,
Yeah.
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 So I really felt that great job with that. And then when you just think about how fragile Black people lives, but just women, Black women especially, because she didn't really have many options. Even her own people were telling her she would be better off marrying
Yeah,
because nobody is going to let her sing.
because that's what they did in those days.
Yeah.
Women didn't pursue careers. Women didn't go after what they wanted. They got married. They had babies. They took care of the houses, their house and the white woman's house.
Right.
You know, and they were in the background. That old adage, they said barefoot and pregnant. That's the way they were
Yeah.
back in those days. But
Mhm.
here's this young girl who has a voice, who has a talent, who's been raised by someone who has taught her that she can do better, who's pushing her
Hmm.
to do better. And like I said, the slap in the face is coming from those people who should be supporting her.
Yeah.
And she
Right.
said, I'm glad you're doing this. Because you have to think that, oh, they should have looked at it from the point of, if she can do it, I can do it. And the more she does, the better chance I will have of being
Right.
able to do it.
Right.
But I was thinking too, based on the times that it was, I don't think that they could even imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. She
And
sounded crazy to them. Like I think of like when everybody who's trying to do something new,
hmm
it's always you it's crazy. Like I was thinking of people like in the Bible, like Noah. When Noah said he was going to build an ark, Eliza was like Noah.
Right.
She was saying basically, she was telling all her friends and family, basically, I'm going to build an ark. Like it sounded just as crazy. I'm gonna go and sing. I'm gonna be an opera singer. She might as well have been saying,
Right.
I'm gonna go and build an ark. They was
Right.
looking at her
Right.
like, girl, if you don't go sit down somewhere
Right.
and go have Lucian's babies, like because it didn't make any sense. She might as well have been saying just something bananas and bonkers. Especially when what was being offered to her was honorable. Like Lucian's family was a great family. They had money, you
Right.
know. And she, was a plus size girl. She wasn't traditionally beautiful. And like Lucian's mama was like, he has good
Yeah,
options. I
that's
don't know
Right.
what
Right.
you
Like
know,
she should be grateful. Right.
that'd be great. You go, my son wants to marry her. Yeah.
Right, Katina, different times, different mindset.
Mhm.
It's something that they couldn't even comprehend. And then I'm thinking too, in the sense of the people that were closest to her, it probably was a little bit of trepidation too about if you put
Oh yeah,
yourself out there,
for sure.
anything can happen to you, which, it was dangerous times.
Yes.
So I was thinking that might have been, too, what they were thinking, especially like her sister Mary.
Yes.
Um, even though she did support her in the end. Now, was she a fictional character as well?
So Mary was not fictional. However, I'm not sure, and I couldn't figure it out. So that's why I made her best friend, like sister friend.
Right.
So Mary was in Eliza's will, uh,
Okay.
and she's listed as her sister, and her children are listed as nieces.
Okay.
But it's unsure, or I'm unsure if she was her biological sister or just a friend who was as close as
Right.
because her actual family, now this thing is true, her real family did go back to Liberia when she was very young. And we don't know why Eliza stayed with Mrs. Greenfield. It could have been because she was too small to travel. Maybe she was sickly. Maybe it was because Mrs. Greenfield was too old, and needed someone to
Oh,
stay
could be.
behind with
Yeah.
her, because she was in her 80s when she freed their family. But Mary could have been uh, a, her father's child on a different plantation, unsure of what the connection was. But they were very close because Mary and her children were listed in Eliza's will. So Eliza's will was one of the documents that I was able to find when I was doing the research.
That's
So
a good resource. I love that.
mhm.
Um Now I had started looking up everything that I could find on on Eliza, and I did find some things, but it on Google and stuff about and I think it was YouTube too that I saw some stuff. But now the way that she described herself, I felt sad that she described herself the way she described herself. She called herself sturdy. um,
Well, she was 30 now.
I'm like, I guess she was realistic too. She knew, um, how she was going to be perceived when she went out into the world.
Mhm.
People couldn't imagine this voice coming out of her. And you know what it reminded me of as well? Remember the British lady with what's her name?
That was on American Idol.
Yes. And nobody could believe
Yes,
that
I
that
know
voice was
exactly who
coming
you're
out
talking
of
about.
her.
Yes.
Yep.
It reminded me of that because
Mhm.
how everybody was always shocked
Yeah.
whenever she started to sing.
Because they weren't looking for that to come out of her. They were looking at her and they didn't see
Right.
that.
Yeah.
They didn't see that beauty that her voice would give to
Yeah.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I also looked up some of the music too that you talked about. And I was trying to look up what's the one that she kept referring to, Jenny
Oh,
Lynn.
Jimmy Land.
I
Yeah.
couldn't find her, but I found another opera singer who was singing some of the songs that Eliza was singing in the story. I don't know why I couldn't find anything on Jenny
Well,
Lynn.
I don't know either, because Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale, is you should be able to find something on her. She was very, very popular.
Maybe I should put that in instead of her name. Maybe put in the Swedish.
Yeah, put in the Swedish Nightingale. You should be able to find her. She was, I mean, there's actually a movie called The Greatest Showman that had what's his name? Hugh Jackman, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That Jenny Lind was one of the main characters of that movie.
Okay, okay. And I remember seeing it a long time ago. I'm gonna have to look at it again.
Yes, Myra, this would make a great movie. I agree.
Yes, yes, yes. From your lips to God's ears. That's right. But you do make your books are on BET Plus, so you never know. Okay, so I want to talk about her relationship with Lucian. Okay, so they were best friends since childhood. And he was like an outsider, outcast too, because of his personality. So they were drawn to each other. But he always had romantic feelings towards her, but she just didn't have those type of feelings for him. And everybody was making, basically telling her, you better get him. He's a good catch. That's what you need to. So, but I love too that she had other, like Miss Bella. Was she a real person, Miss Bella, her teacher?
So her teacher was a real person. Her name was not Miss Bella. I made up the name.
Okay.
She did have a singing instructor. Yeah.
Okay.
A voice coach.
Yes.
Because I like that she had people that were telling her, because mainly everybody was telling her that she needed to go ahead, and she did for a minute decide that she was going to go ahead and accept his engagement. But I'm glad that she ended up deciding to follow her passion. It's just, like I said, it's just remarkable to me that she even had the presence of mind to even believe that this is something that she can achieve back in these times. But I know a lot of that probably has to do with, how she was raised. So it was just remarkable to me. Also, I wanted to talk about is this, because I think I saw it when I was looking on Google, the one that paid the Colonel, but they didn't have his name. They just said one of her managers, and about how badly he treated her. So I was thinking that was probably who it was based on.
Colonel Wood was a real person.
Okay.
Colonel, I think it's J.L. Wood. He was real.
Okay.
And she actually went on 2 tours with him. So after they separated the first time, she did another tour with him. I think I only did 1 tour in the book, but they separated, and she did in real life. She did 2 tours with him before she linked up with the manager who she did the British tour with.
Right. Now, did he actually, get rough with her and all of that?
So some of that is certainly fictional and embellished. What the scene that happened in Toronto, I had a lot of fun fictionalizing that. So all that roughness, all of that. So a funny editorial story I'll tell. I tried to because it was my goal. And I fulfilled this goal. I did not want with a story set in the antebellum,
right?
You're always with Black folks, when we have Black people still on plantations, the expectation is that you're going to see some violence against Black bodies.
Yes.
And it's my goal to not have that because I didn't want to write that story. We have that, and it's important. We should never forget that is taking place, or that took place. I just didn't want to write that. I didn't want that to be in this story. I've read that. I read those stories because, like I said, we must never forget our history. I just wanted this story to be triumphant and joyful, and so I was determined not to have that. And so I had gotten to the scene in Toronto, and I was like, okay, so I want to not have any violence against Black bodies. And so I literally tried to skip. Like, I was like, okay, so we're going to have this happen in Toronto, and I'm going to build it up, and we'll say, oh, now they're back in Buffalo. Like,
But you
we
know
know
what? You did a
something
great
happened.
job though of balancing it, because even
Right,
though there was no harm to them, you
right,
still had the fear.
right.
Yes.
But I wanted to just basically, you know how like you see something and then like it's a cliffhanger, and then the next episode you don't
Right,
really know how they
right,
got
right.
out of the thing. You just know that they did and they're back at home. So I tried to skip it. My editor was like, "What in all the exclamation mark?" She was like, no, ma'am, you're gonna write the scene." And so I wrote the scene, and I was glad that I was able to write it in a way that we have the tension, we
Right.
have the suspense, you're at the edge of your seat, and you're still scared like for what's going to happen, but there's
Mhm.
still no violence
There's no
because
violence. Yes.
I
Right.
didn't want the violence. Because that was my promise that I made to myself. I wanted this story set in the antebellum, but I did not want violence coming to anyone in the book. And so, yeah. But my editor was like, no, ma'am. No, no.
Well, yeah, I enjoyed that scene, and I also enjoyed, because I saw a movie years ago, and I'm going to bring up a photo that I saw of her online just so people can see an image of Elizabeth.
There she is. There's Eliza
Yes,
giving
yes, yes,
face. Don't she look like she's giving much attitude? Like,
yes.
Yes. Mhm.
like that's like her. That's her. Who gonna check me? Boo face.
Right,
Like,
right, right. And she looks like an opera singer. I love
mhm.
the outfit, the outfit she has on, and her
Yes.
hair. Love it, love it. Um, but she performed for in the book, and I don't know if this happened for real, but she performed for James Mink's daughter's
Yes.
wedding.
Yes, she
That
did.
that did happen. Okay, because I remember James Meeks from when I saw a movie with Lou Gossett Jr. years ago where he played um, James Mink, and so when I saw that in the book, I was like, oh, okay, I love this, I love this. So I didn't know if that was really happened or not. So I'm glad to see that it did, because he was like a buffer. He was her protector almost when Colonel Wood or whatever his name is came in there, yelling her name, screaming her name, and
Acting a fool.
Acting
yes,
crazy.
He came
Acting-
in acting a straight up fool. Now,
yes,
all
he
of that, of
did.
course, is fictionalized, but yeah.
Yes, he did. And I love, even though Charles got on my nerves sometimes in the beginning, I ended up liking his being, his place in her life. Um, and he acted as a protector as well, for her out here in the world by herself. So I'm glad that she had him, at least in the book, and the rest of her support system, and she wasn't just out here by herself. Um, Another thing that was,
Overprotective big brother throughout, and he wanted her to do what he wanted her to do.
yes,
Do it his way, you know. He wanted her to speak out before she was ready to speak out. You know, he was that overprotective big brother that says, "I'm the big brother. This is what you need to do." But she was strong enough to stand up to him and say, "I'm not ready for that yet." You know.
yeah, she definitely had knew her own mind, so that was good, because she had a lot of people telling her, and she actually would used to get frustrated because it was all the men were making all of the decisions for her, but at that time, that was the name of the game, and
The
Yeah.
persistent patriarchy for
yes,
black
especially
men and white men.
yes, especially back then.
Mhm.
Um, And then too, when you brought in the protests outside of the theaters whenever she performed, I just can't even imagine,
And that
performing
really
under those
happened.
circumstances.
Yeah,
Brave, brave, brave woman.
absolutely.
Now, when she performed at the New York Metropolitan Hall, did that actually happen?
Yes, it did. Yes, it
Ah,
did.
man. And can you remind or tell people what happened?
So that show, there was 4,000 people there. First of all, that was the biggest turnout for a Black person ever to date. You know, at the time, and
Right.
so it was supposed to be a mixed audience. And at the last minute, they told the Black folks they could not come because they were afraid that it was going to be a riot. And so the crowd was not what Eliza was expecting. It was a very rowdy crowd. She was used to a more cultured
Right.
audience who was, coming to see opera. And this crowd was, they were crazy. Like they were
Mhm.
used to like minstrel show performances.
Right.
And that's what ended up happening. Like there was a clown on the stage, whether it was just crazy, it was bonkers. um and she ended up this was I'll save this because it's a little bit of a spoiler, but this was a turn in her thought process for you know how she was going to show up for the Black community as
Right.
well. And she um, started to view things differently about, you know, this really wasn't how she wanted to have her career be.
Mhm.
And so this is where she started to take matters into her own hands as far
Right.
as, you know, I'm not just going to be performing for white people,
Mhm.
especially if they're going to treat me this way.
Right.
And so she started to do things differently. This show was a turning point for her. In real life, and this was a scene that I had to cut because the book was just getting too long. In real life, that at that same theater, there was another opera singer who invited her to her concert, and Eliza couldn't get in.
Wow.
There was another famous opera singer, like a couple of weeks before Eliza's show. She said, "Oh, you are amazing. Come hear me."
Right.
She had given Eliza a ticket to come, and Eliza couldn't even get in. And she was about to perform at the same opera house, and she
That
couldn't.
is
Nobody could let her in.
crazy.
Mhm. But it was a scene, and I wanted it because I felt like, okay, this scene is going to be good because it's going to show the trajectory. But the book was it was too
It's
long.
too much. Too long.
But it was a scene that I was like, do I need to keep this? But there were so many scenes that I
Right.
wanted to keep that I had to cut. But that was one that you know, this is when things started to change for Eliza, and she was starting to come into her own activism
Right.
at this point in the book. And so that particular concert was an eye opener for her.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
because she was relying on these white managers, two
Yeah.
tour managers, to handle everything, and then for it to turn out where basically they made a spectacle of her.
yes,
Um, and man, I felt so bad. So
And she
bad.
was relying, look, she was looking for a full audience of both Black and white people. Because
right,
Right.
this is the first time I'm going to be able to perform for everybody,
Right.
not just the Black, not like the Black people in the little hole, not just the white people in the big auditorium, but now I'm going to be able to perform for everybody. And then at the last minute, her legs were like kind of cut out from under her
yep,
in that respect. Uh,
yeah,
and they turned it into like a minstrel show or a clown show
Right.
with her on the stage being, the person that was actually being made fun of.
yep. And I love what her reaction was to that, because I think that's when she really realized, she started to listen to the things that everybody was telling her, like
Mm-hmm.
they're really not going to allow me to have this ideal world that I thought I was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that this dream that I think I'm going to have of standing on the stage and singing to
Right.
Black and white audiences. This is not gonna happen. And I'm going to have to take matters into my own hands to have my people be able to see me sing. And so she started to make different choices in her career going forward. And I just really love, she started to have some tenacity in her after that. And you start to see the difference. It's almost immediate in her. Um,
Yeah, I noticed that. And now this is what I was going to ask you too. Okay, so I want to give some context to the people in the audience who may not have read it yet. Okay, so her goals, when her two of her major goals was to make, because she was expecting to have this inheritance from her guardian that raised her, but because the will was contested, time and every just dragging on. So she's wanting to make enough money where she can make it to Europe, which is was one of her goals, to train in Europe. But her other goal is to make enough money where she can bring her mother back to the States when because they love to go to Africa when she was little. So it's very important. It's not just about her making money because she wants to be this big opera prima donna.
Yeah.
But she has goals and reasons behind a lot of it. So when after that one, I think that's the one where she does make enough to go to Europe.
mhm.
Okay. So when she goes to Europe, did this actually happen where she actually does perform for Queen Victoria?
She does. She actually does sing for Queen Victoria and Buckingham Palace. That is one of the highlights of her career. So she does get to do that.
I love that. Love that. So were you able to actually see the write ups for? Um,
Yes, that was so exciting. So the British media is back then was just like they are now. Like they were like
okay.
the paparazzi. Like as soon as she stepped off the ship, there are so many articles in the British newspapers about Eliza. Like the the concert promoter had been like feeding information about her to the press even before she got there.
Okay.
So they knew what ship she was supposed to be arriving on. And like, so there's one thing, um, I didn't know that she was going to be arriving to Europe with people with her, right? I thought she
Okay.
was going to be by herself because remember, I told you one of the pieces of documentation that I used to research her was a concert program. So
Right.
in that concert program, oh, they made it sound like she got to Europe. She was destitute. She was alone. But when I was editing my book, I found an article that had the ship manifest. The ship manifest had Eliza arriving with two servants with her.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. So
I
that
had
really
to,
happened. Okay.
yes, so I had to do a huge rewrite, which is how, and I won't give this away, but that's how she ended up going to Europe with two companions with her.
Okay. I love
So,
that though.
yeah. So there were so many things that I found out just reading the newspapers. So there's so much writing historical fiction is like a scavenger hunt and it's so fun. It is so
It
fun.
sounds like it because just reading it, like I told you, I was out looking for as much as I could find on her. Um, so I love that aspect of it too. Um, Now, when she first, we skipped over when she first got noticed for her first, um, I think it was a recital or with on the steamboat to Buffalo.
Mhm.
She's out and she's playing guitar and she's singing on the boat, and then
Yes.
she draws the attention of a socialite.
Yes.
So was that actually okay?
Yep, that
Yeah.
happened. That's how she got her big break. she got on that steamboat and she was playing her guitar and she sang for a socialite who invited her to her house, and that was her first actual concert in Buffalo, was for the elite Buffalo music, like artists, groups of folks,
Right, right.
come and listen to just that crowd, and that's how she got her big break.
Mm.
I was hoping that she would get like a patron that would be, that would be long ongoing, that would stick with her throughout. But again, I guess the times.
Right. The times, and then she was a black woman,
Yes.
so
And I think the only person who would have been her patron had died, but she left her with what she would hope
Right,
she'd have been
right,
able to do it with, but then
right.
it was contested.
right.
Mhm.
She was no longer there, but she put her in a position where she could do it. But then you got these greedy family members who were
Mhm.
contesting because they didn't think that she was entitled to it.
Right.
Right. And did you think that Miss Elizabeth should have anticipated that her Southern family may have
I
contested
think
it?
she did.
You think she did?
I think she did, but she probably just figured they chunk it up, not she didn't go to that extent, but I'm so she was somewhere. I'm sure in one of those last conversations that they had, she probably warned her, beware of my children.
And she, and Miss Lisbeth's will, she also left money to her lawyers, which was contested. So
Right, right.
she had everything in place. Like, she had legal counsel that was there. So she was a smart woman. The money that was left for Eliza's mother to come back was
Mm-hmm.
way more money than was needed for the ship fare to come back from Africa to United States. The reason why there was such a large sum of money was because they were going to have to bribe people to bring her back from Africa, because
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay,
once you went over there, you couldn't.
you weren't supposed to be able to come
Yeah,
back.
you weren't felt.
Right.
Yeah, so they were going to have to bribe politicians to be able to get her to come back. Pay for it.
Mm-hmm. But I truly enjoyed this book, and learning about this wonderful woman, and so I thank you for that, and really really enjoyed it. So and Mama Tony, did you have any other comments or questions before we go into our
No,
second?
except for I took a music theory class when I was in college, and one of the things the name remember because we were taught in that class that she was the first Black woman opera singer in front of Marian Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, because we all knew about Marian Anderson. We all
Right.
knew that she had gone into this thing, and but it was it when I was thought about it, I was like, it was mentioned so fast. I think if I hadn't seen this name in the book, I wouldn't have. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something I would have thought about. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Or when you would have said opera singers, I would have gone to the Marian Anderson and all. I never would have thought about this because it was like mentioned and then just thrown away per se.
Yeah.
Right.
But and but then I remembered, you know, Mr. Carmody told us. It was like you had that flashback of okay,
Yeah.
this 20-year-old student sitting in this class that you didn't want to be in, but you had that that flashback, and you remember that he said that, and then it puts for me it put light on the fact that we have been doing and striving for so long and being knocked down,
Yes.
you know, and especially women,
Yes.
especially women. Um, and the title for me, Unexpected, because
Mm-hmm.
when people looked at her, you got this plus size woman with this
Right.
kinky hair. They don't expect to hear this beautiful voice and hear these arias being able to come out of her. you know. So it's so unexpected. I can imagine that even her white audience, when they went with the anticipation of making fun of.
Mm-hmm.
She
Mhm.
opened her mouth, she changed their minds,
Yes, she did.
their attitudes, and everything else.
Yes,
Because you know,
absolutely.
it reminds me of one of the parts in the book where that exact thing happens, where there's I can't remember what part it was, where they were amazed of what's coming out of her mouth, that the article afterwards refers saying that she must have European blood.
Oh yeah,
um
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There's
that's
no way a
the
black woman,
only way that something like this beautiful is coming out. So I'm
because
like,
there's no way a black woman who's been a slave and whose family has gone back to Africa could possibly
yes,
be able to do that.
the
So they thought.
things that we have had to do. I'm telling you, it's crazy. And the fact that she was able to still overcome all of that at that time is just amazing to me.
Mhm.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. You mentioned another book. Can you give us a little more on what you have coming up in the
Yes.
future?
So it's called A Wedding in Harlem, and it's coming out next year. Um, and it's about Yolande Du Bois, daughter of
Hmm.
W.E.B. Du Bois, and she married Count Cullen, famous poet of the Harlem Renaissance, but she was really in love with a jazz musician named Jimmy Lunsford.
Hmm.
And so it's all about that ill-fated marriage to Count Cullen. We all know that that only lasted for a hot second. But it's all about her real love story and
Okay.
why that marriage to Count failed, and everything that happened in between. And
I love that. Love it.
it's
Love it.
super duper juicy.
Sounds like it.
Okay.
And because it's taking me back to what I just read about the Harlem Renaissance,
Oh yeah.
and we didn't get a lot of his daughter in the book, so I'm glad to.
Yeah. But listen, Jesse's in my book. She is Yolande's mentor
Okay.
in the book, and so she's in there, and of course she was Count's mentor. So she's in there, and
Good. Good. Good.
it's a lot of fun. It's a good juicy novel. I really enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed being in Harlem and reading those letters. Let me tell you something. Those folks in Harlem
Hmm.
was messy, messy, messy. I,
That makes a great story too. So
mhm. Yes,
I'm looking forward to it. So you say it comes next year. Look out
yes.
for it. Okay,
Yes.
sounds good. And much success with
Thank
this
you.
book. Really,
Thank you.
really well done. And I'm definitely going to. Did I? I don't. I haven't done my review yet. I'm gonna make sure to do my review.
Yes, please, please, everybody out there in cyberspace, if you've read The Unexpected Diva, please go ahead and drop your review. Oh, everybody holding their books up. Let's see. Please drop your review on everywhere you review, Amazon, Goodreads, all the places where you drop your.
Yes, yes. I usually do it automatically once I'm done, but that's usually with the ebook because it just pops up. But
Mm-hmm.
I read this one in the print form, so I'll make sure to go out there and put the review on several places.
Well,
Yes, thank you.
my reviews are out there.
Yes, they
Mhm.
are. Thank you so much, Mama Tony.
My reviews are out there.
Thank you so much for coming on the show,
Thank
and
you for having me.
you're welcome, and I can't wait to read what's coming up next. I'm gonna have to go back and read some of your catalog. I was looking over.
Girl,
Um,
girl. That's all I'm gonna say.
all right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
So I'll be in touch. I'm sure I'm going to be reaching out once I start reading and catching up on your catalog, and maybe we
Thank
can have you back when
All
you
right.
come up with the new one. All righty. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. You too. Bye.
All
Bye, Mama
right.
Tony.
See you
All
later.
right. So we're going to get into the second segment. Let me go in here. Um, Okay, for those who are new here, every week we do a highlight, a book highlight. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that we read recently, just something that stood out to us that we want to share and recommend to other book lovers. All right. So, would you like to go first?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Let me bring up the image. Or I can go first. It's up to you.
Doesn't matter. Forget it. I'll go.
Okay.
My book recommendation is Catching Feelings by LaJill Hunt. LaJill's been writing a few years, and like Tiffany, I've been reading her since the early, late 90s. But this book is about three siblings, two sisters and a brother. They all got issues. They all have issues, and they unite with each other no matter what's going on. Even though there's a scene in here where one sister and brother are literally almost, you think they're going to get into a physical altercation. It's that sibling rivalry, but then
Okay.
something happens and they forget all about how angry they were with each other because they come together for each other, and that's throughout the whole book. uh, the brother's the player. No, the sisters warn girls against him. Don't talk to my brothers. But everybody meets that one person that triggers them. He meets his.
Okay. And I love books about strong family bonds. So yeah.
It is, and even with that mother. So the, catching feelings will make you catch feelings.
Okay.
You're gonna get angry. You're gonna get, not only with the three main characters, the siblings, but with the secondary characters and how they act and what they do. Uh, it was a good read. That's all I can say. It was a good read, and you won't be disappointed if you read Catching Feelings by LaJill Hunt.
Has anybody in the audience read this book? If you have, let us know. Let us know what you thought of the book. Erica, I know you probably have. I don't know if I've read anything by LaJill. I know who she is, of course, but I don't know if I've read anything. If I have, it's probably been years and years and years ago. But
Yes,
I
and
have
she
read.
has she also has an extensive back catalog that you can go back
Mhm.
that you would not
Yeah,
be.
and I just wrote that down,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll check it out. Because they were getting on me last week. Who was that? Erica got on me about who? Oh, because I had Bailey West on, and this was my first book by her, and nobody could. Everybody was like, "This is your first book by Bailey West," but yeah. So I'll check this out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and okay, so mine is, and I've told people this before because I've been reading this author for years and have fallen in love with these characters. Oh, Myra, you said no, you haven't read anything by Have you read anything by LaJill Hunt? Oh, Erica. Okay, so I'm surprised. You said you have not. You said you stopped reading her a
Yeah,
couple years ago. Okay. I have to go back through my library to see if I have any books by her because I can't remember. It might be may have read her years ago and just forgot. Okay. Okay. So mine is by a white author, but I've been reading her for years, and I still love this series. And Erica, I'm sure I have told you and Katina about it before. Let me see. Uh, Once I bring it up, you're gonna know. Okay, it's two covers, so I'll show the newest one because they turned it into a Star series. So this is the cover for the Star series with the actors on the cover, and it's Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And for you romance readers, this love story is one epic love story, and it's also time travel. So it's over the centuries. Um, And this is the book cover for with the, like I said, the stars actors on it. But I like the original cover, so I'm going to bring the original cover on. That's the one that I have. I I have it here somewhere. I got stuff all over the place in boxes and stuff. But this is the original cover. Oh, I brought up the same one. Let me see. Um, okay, so this is the original cover, and I actually preferred that one. And I'll read you the synopsis. Okay, so the they start out saying this is a stunning blend of historical romance and time traveling adventure that has captured the hearts of millions of readers around the world and catapulted author Diana Gabaldon to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. Outlander introducing an exhilarating world of heroism, and breathtaking thrills as one woman is torn between the past and present, passion and love. And then the actual synopsis is in 1945, former combat nurse Claire Randall returns from World War II and joins her husband for a second honeymoon. Their blissful reunion is shattered when she touches a boulder in an ancient stone ruin and is instantly transported to 1743 Scotland, a place torn by war and raiding border clans. Will Claire find her way back to her own time, or is her destiny forever linked with the clan Mackenzie and the gallant James Fraser? So that's basically it in a nutshell. When she is transported back to 1743 from Scotland by touching one of the old ruined stones, and the adventure starts there. And then, but you get this epic, epic love story. It is, when I tell you this is such a great series, I see why it's like translated into several languages, and that it has been made into a Stars TV series because it is one of my favorites. And I just have to warn you though, Erica, here go another one. If you read it, it's about 1,000 pages, the first book, and then every other subsequent book is like between 800 and 900 pages. But it's very, very, very well done, and it's one of these epic love stories. Oh, Erica, you do have it. Okay, yep. Did I tell you about it? Did you already read it? Cause you, but yes, it is very, very good. And anybody who loves a great love story and loves time travel and all of that, you will love it. Can't say enough about it. If you want to check out the Star series, that's a good adaptation of it. But the books I think are better, of course, because it gives more, goes more in depth. Has so Erica has read it. Anybody else read Outlander out there?
I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Mama Tony,
And
you have.
I'm not big on time travel, so
You will love it because the romance is just, it's such an epic, epic love story. Um, Erica says she's had it for a few years now. But you have read it, Erica? Because I know you always talking about I always choose books with a lot of pages. But this one is definitely, this is probably the most I've ever read is 1,000 pages, but it did not feel like 1,000 pages. I still wanted more afterwards. And what's so great is I came to the series late, so I was able to read I would say the first 4 or 5 back to back. But now I have to wait with everybody else because she only brings them out like every 5 years.
oh my God.
Yes, every 5 years. But she does extensive research, but it still seems like way too long. Um, because
So how many books are currently in the series?
Right now is 9, I believe, that's out, but she's only going up to 10, so it's only one more left.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of them are already out. She said yes, and you do.
I don't know what the highlight was last week, but Erica said this one is a lot bigger.
And she said this one is bigger than your highlight from last week. Yes, last week I think it was what 600 pages, I believe.
Oh,
But It did not feel okay. And Erica, Katina, if you still out there, you have to let them know because they were talking about one book that was 600 pages. But I told them it didn't feel like 600, and she ended up reading it. It was Losing Control by Lady Nesha. And Katina read it, and she said she loved it. It's going to end up being one of her top picks this year. So Erica, even though they sometimes are lengthy, I will not steer you wrong. But I really, I'm telling you, for my romance readers, you will love Outlander. Love it, love it, love it. It is just so well done. And like I said, I started reading it years ago, still reading it. And it's still like one of my top favorites.
Erica told me, she said you said the same thing last time. Thank you, Erica.
Oh man. Well, I warned you. It's not like I didn't warn you this time. I said it's 1,000 pages. So
Oh gracious.
And I told Midnight about it too. And her and her husband, I believe, watched a few of the episodes on Stars, but she hasn't tried the books yet. But yeah, so check out both of our highlights. I can't say enough about Outlander. And then Mama Tony, I'm sure, is saying the same thing about Catching Feelings.
Catching Feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So if you check them out, let us know in the comments on future show what you thought, or reach out to Mama Tony on her book nook and let us know what you thought about our highlight if you check them out. All right. Well, thank everybody for coming out tonight. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being so engaged. And please make sure to check out The Unexpected Diva. Believe me, you will not. If you like historical fiction, you will not be disappointed. It was such a great read. And like I told you, Mama Tony, off camera, I'm so glad that you had it as one of your picks because that's what made me read it, because I chose a couple of books from all of you all. So
okay.
And really, really, really enjoyed it. And if you haven't read Victoria Christopher Murray's Harlem Rhapsody, check that out as well. She was on the show a couple of weeks ago.
I already read. I've already read it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that was, oh my goodness, so good. What is Erica? She said, "Then was it you or Katina who highlighted Commitment?" That was me, Commitment, and that was 500 pages. Yes, that was me. But believe me, you will not feel like you are reading 500 pages. If you have never read Nia Forster, you have to check her out. She's
gracious.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. But you already, Erica, you've read Nia before, I believe. Very, very good. But yes, it is lengthy. It is lengthy, but it's not gonna feel like that. All right, and I will be back next Monday. I will be speaking with Alexandria House about. We will be discussing Lilith. So I hope you all can join in for that discussion as well. I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed Lilith and Memphis. So
I love you, Erica.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening and have a great evening.
You too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.